with my buddy Ryan Gams, the heir apparent to Rahl Jewelers. He's been waiting 34 years to take over, but his father Brad getting the job done. But you did something different, didn't you, Ryan? I mean, you furthered your college education, which involved jewelry, right?
Yep. Started my education at Purdue, my undergraduate degree, and then I continued on at the GEM Institute of America, GIA. So got my graduate diamond degree from there, and here I am back at store.
So I can imagine that no matter how good your sports teams are, the bling is outstanding. There's, I see what the NBA players wear.
Oh, yeah.
Do they bring jewels in and stuff and check? You guys got to learn from looking at other jewelry and stuff like that?
Yeah. So they bring in, no matter what it is, diamonds, colored stones. We have our tools, and we inspect, and we can color grade, clarity grade, and if it's set into a piece of jewelry, we approximate the size that it is, and we can let the customer know how much it's worth.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's my buddy Ryan Gams, Rahl Jewelers. I'm happy if I can get my pencil sharpened. This guy going to get a college education and taking care of your gems. Check them out, folks. Rahl Jewelers, Arrington Road, Hoffman Estates.
Rahl Jewelers, family owned for over 40 years. Visit their website, RAHL Jewelers, RahlJewelers.com. Welcome to Chapter 2 of Rahl Jewelers presents Raging Mouth, the Mike North story. In Chapter 1, Mike introduced us to his childhood, growing up in a working-class area of Chicago's North Side, his challenges in the classroom, how he had a work ethic instilled in him, his relationship with his brothers and mother, aunts and uncles, and the complex bond that he had with his father, a man Mike says he never had 3 straight bad days with, but also never had 3 straight good days. Now in this chapter, Mike picks up the story as a teenager facing an uncertain future.
I drop out of high school. Now I'm 17 years old. My uncles are precinct captains in the 49th Ward. My Uncle Leo, my Uncle Joey. Because I end up becoming a precinct captain, okay? Back when the machine patronage was king, and it should still be, because then the city would be better off. Each ward had a number of jobs. Everybody was taken care of. I got a job with the Park District. So I was pulling, $800 a month or something. My buddies were still going to school. I'm 17. I'm racking up some money. I'm working for the Park District. Everything's going good. Nothing's gonna stop me now. I said, I'm doing this for a while. This is good. And then...
In 1970, to eliminate what was called an unfair military draft, Congress decided to replace it with a random selection process, a draft lottery.
After about a year and a half, I had to go register for the draft. It was my father's idea, and I never let him forget it. They're in Vietnam. Because he was an Air Force guy. He says, you got to go for your draft card. If you don't, you're breaking the law. And I'm rolling my eyes. I go, oh boy.
The 366 possible birth dates were placed in capsules, drawn at random from a bin, and assigned selection numbers in the order drawn.
So I'm on my bike. I'm riding my bike. I'm 18. I see my buddy Bobby Sandler, who I'm still friends with. And he says, hey, the numbers came out. We're all safe. I go, great, except you.
Men whose birth date matched selection number 1 were drafted first. The next were drafted second, and so on.
He goes, you got 45. I knew I was dead. I said, I'm going to end up in Vietnam, man. As soon as I found that out, I went to the Armory on Broadway and Thorndale there. National Guard Armory. Pounded on the door. I want to join the National Guard. They go, it's too late. If you wanted to do that, you had to do it before you got drafted. You're done. I got inducted June 28th, 1972. I had to go to Van Buren Street. That's where the induction center was. So my buddy Jim Koretzis, great guy. He had known me since 7th, 8th grade. He says, hey, you want me to go down there with you? And I go, how are you going to do that? We're going to go early. My dad wants to take me there. He goes, no, stay overnight. And we never had anybody stay overnight, but he stayed overnight with me, which meant a lot to me. He went with us the next morning. He was in the back seat, and my dad's driving down to the induction center, and tears are coming down his eyes. I'd never seen him cry because they were all scared.
Vietnam is 12 months of physical torture and enduring the very private agony of memories of back in the world and each man's separation from his friends and folks.
Fort Polk, Louisiana, 95 degrees at midnight. Just a swamp-ridden, disgusting, brutal place that prepared you to go to Vietnam. They had a prisoner of war camp that you had to go through. And there were guys actually weeping in the barracks that night. Between Fort Riley and Fort Polk, I was at Fort Gordon. I ended up first getting orders to Vietnam. I was supposed to go to Long Bin Jung or something. I was a correction specialist, MP, working in the stockade or leading convoys, whatever they wanted you to do. I knew that, oh my God. Our day room where we all hung out was very quiet. Not as, because we don't know, we're too dumb to know though what's going to happen. We're still gung-ho. What happened then was Nixon put the freeze on.
I have asked for this radio and television time for the purpose of announcing that we today have concluded an agreement to end the war and bring peace with honor in Vietnam.
There I was very fortunate because I don't think I would have made it. I don't, to be honest with you. I feel all bad for the 57,000. I do, to this day. I put stuff up for him sometimes on Twitter just because it could have been me, and I knew people that did that. Ended up going to Fort Riley. Had a good year and a half there. Lived in town and everything. It was a good time. Lived by Kansas State University. Everything turned out okay. And, I met BeBe during that time, too. That's when my luck started to turn a little bit. I met her when I came home for leave. I'm home for a while, see family, friends, and the first place I go is to go see my buddy Jimmy DiGiulio, Gooch, as we call him. And he worked at the Jewel, which is now a fire station now, on 6000 North Clark. He was the produce guy. I go into the back, hey Gooch, what's going on? Hey, what's going on, Horse? My nickname was the Horseman back in the day, Horse. And I look, and I see the checker, and I go, wow, who's that? That girl right there with the long hair. And she was about 50 feet away. It's a big store. He goes, oh, that's Beatrice Rainey out of your league. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, well, goes to the Catholic school, goes to Sacred Heart, great checker. I think she's got a boyfriend. He goes, I'm just saying. So we go up there. Now, he's leaving his produce post. He starts bagging her groceries. Usually they bag their own if they didn't have a bagger. Well, Gooch is in produce, but he comes and bags her. She goes, what are you doing, Gooch? He goes, hey, I want you to meet a friend of mine. So I get to the line. I got a Three Musketeers bar. I go, how you doing? This and that, blah, blah, blah. I said something in Italian, Chiona Stupagine or something. She don't know what I'm talking about. She goes, how you doing? I go, good. How long you home for? I go, about 3 more days and stuff. We start talking, blah, blah, blah. I go, man, she's hot. She goes, forget about it, I go home the next day, I come back over there, and I go, how you doing? She goes, fine. So I go back, and I tell Gooch, where does she live? Back then, you could ask where a girl lives if you go to her house. Okay, it's not really stalking. Now you'd be stalking. I go, where does she live? I think she lives on Arthur in St. Ignatius' Parish. Well, where? He goes, I'll find out. I go, if you don't find out, I'll find out. I said hi to her, and I go, listen, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm leaving for the service again. I might have to go to Nam. Who knows? She didn't know I only had 2-3 months to go. I'm making this crap up. But I'd like to go out with you. No. And I knew I wasn't going anywhere. But I had to do something. That night, I find out where she lives. And I knock on the door of the second floor where she lived. Her mother answers. She goes, can I help you? I go, yes. Is Beatrice there? She goes, who are you? I go, just tell her Mike North is here. She shuts the door. Then her other sister comes over. What do you want? I go, I'm just wanted to talk to Beatrice. I didn't know it was BeBe yet. Door shuts. She's got her hair wrapped in a towel. She's supposed to meet some people and supposed to go out with a guy or something. I said, listen, just one time. Tomorrow night. What do you think? Then I leave the next day. She goes, well, let me think about it. I go, okay. She ends up saying yes. We go out to eat at a place called Hennessy's in the Sovereign Hotel, which is on Granville and Winthrop. There was a restaurant there at the time, real good. And we went to see the movie The Sting, which was at the Devon Theater, which is now closed. And then we went to have a few drinks at a place called Gadzooks by St. Ida's on Broadway, about 5,500. That's closed now. They're all closed. And we had a good time, but then I went back. I started writing her, and she'd write back. I never wrote letters before in my life. I was writing her every day. Plus, back then, you didn't have cell phones. If we had cell phones back then, they got it made. Now, back then, you had to wait in line. There'd be 6 phone booths. There'd be like 50 guys in each line before you could call somebody. And then when I got out, I said, listen, can you pick me up? She goes, sure. So I get off the plane, and back then, somebody coming to get you could walk right to the terminal, walk right to it. So I'm looking. I see this girl coming, short skirt, long brown hair down to her rear end. I go, that looks like somebody, but that can't be for me. That woman can't be for me. I mean, that's a 10 right there. Forget about it. As she got closer, I go, wait a minute. That's her. She was stunning. I knew that day I was overmatched. I was so overmatched. What am I doing with this woman? What am I doing? I couldn't believe it. And neither could my friends. I mean, nobody could. And she, I'm a high school dropout. She was a upper part of her class at Loyola, Mundelein, Catholic girl, Sacred Heart. She ended up picking me up, came to my house. My parents, they had a party for me. It's the only party my mom ever threw, I think, for me. We had the family over, and everybody got to meet BeBe for the first time. And she took me home to her place, different family, all 3 of her sisters. The whole family met me, everything good, full Italian family. And food that I never had before in an abundance of way. I mean, when I went out with B, when we started dating, I never had Chinese food. My dad didn't come home and take the whole family out for Chinese. He said, dinner's on the table at 6. We didn't go to restaurants. So I ate Chinese food for the first time with her. It was great. So, I mean, I get the girl of my dreams. I get engaged to her at Christmas time. And by February, for a variety of reasons, including, I don't think I'm ready, which I probably wasn't, I break up. For 6 months, I was broken up with her. I'm such an idiot. You got this beautiful girl, the perfect person, but you're so selfish. You're playing ball 4 nights a week. You're going out drinking afterwards. You're still very young and immature. And you could have handled it better. I just wasn't ready. That's what I said. And I didn't feel ready at the time. But that's her saying, well, too bad then. You're not, when you're ready, I won't be around. Hell, we're still broken up. And I'm playing football, and I get my collarbone broken. Tackle, no equipment. Never been really hurt. I roll out, I throw the ball, and these 2 guys hit me late. They wedge me. I break my collarbone. It's still got the thing sticking out here. So I get fitted for a brace. I got to wear that for 6 weeks. My buddy had broken his leg at the same time, Tom Howard. So we went on a 6-week party scourge. We were off work. We couldn't do anything. He was a printer. I worked for the city. I started, God, I'm not bathing well. I can't take this son of a bitch off. I miss BeBe. I drove out there to her house. I knocked on the door. I go, I'm in trouble. I got a problem. She goes, what? And I told her, I'm not. I broke how'd you break your collarbone? Blah, 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 blah. She actually says, you know what? You sort of smell. I go, yeah, I smelled myself on the way over. It's a long drive. And she goes, you should take a bath. I go, I know, but no, we'll take a bath. And she ran the bath. Took the brace off. Got me all situated. That was the beginning of coming back a little bit. You're willing to do that for somebody, and you burned her. That was it. That's when I knew, man, don't be a moron. So, and one night I see her, I'm at the bar with my buddies. I go, boy, nothing's going on. Everything was going on before. Nothing's going on. And I see her drive down Devon by the bar as I'm walking out, because that was her way home. She lived on Schubert and Laramie at the time. I got in my car. I followed her all the way to Peterson and Ravenswood, where there was a gas station. She saw me. I go, pull over. Well, that wasn't going to work. She didn't feel like pulling over. I go, come on, just pull over for a minute. So she pulls over. and we're in this gas station. It's dark. It took me 4 hours to talk her into going out with me. 4 hours in the car with her. I won't do it again. I won't double cross you. It was my fault. Nobody else's fault. You were great to me. It was stupid. 4 hours because she didn't want to get burned again. I didn't blame her. I mean, she's influenced every part of my life. She used to tell me, you're smart. Don't think you're dumb. She goes, I get straight A's, but there's stuff you tell me I don't know. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her. That's just the way it is. And that started way back when, because she believed in me from day one. I finally talked her into it, and thank God I did. Greatest wedding of all time. Como Inn. Me and B loved the Como Inn. We used to go there and on dates and stuff. We had so much fun there. We said we're going to get married here. The Crystal Room. We had a band called Pot Roast. They were supposed to quit at midnight. I mean, my dad said, here's another 100. You're playing some more. And they go, well, we're almost, no, you're playing some more. He gave him another 100 back in the day, back in 77. They played another hour. Everybody danced. Everybody had a good time. It was fun. It really was. I get this job with the city after I get out of the service. This guy named Ed Smith worked for Neil Hartigan. He was his main guy, his right-hand man. The 49th Ward was a powerhouse organization back then. And Ed Smith told me, when you're going in, he goes, yeah, don't worry. You're going in the Army. We appreciate that. And you could go to Vietnam. When you come out, you're going to have a great job waiting. I said, oh, okay. I go, I get out. I need my job back. I worked for the park at the time. He goes, oh, we got a better job than that for you now. You went in the service. You gave up 2 years of your life. Be a patriotic guy. I'm going to take care of you. Gives me a job with the water department. I forget what I was making. 3 times as much as with the parks. And I was called the Group C engineer. Knew nothing about it. And if you go down to Kennedy and you see on Wilson in the Kennedy that big smokestack, that's where I worked. You go down the stairs and all these dials. Knew nothing about nothing. All patronage workers that worked there. All older guys. Average age about 40, 45, 50. I'm 22, 23. It's shift work. My Uncle Joe was a little bit envious. You got a better job than me. And he was a labor foreman for the parks. I said, I don't care, man. I don't care. I want to play ball with my buddies. I want to play basketball in 3 leagues. I want to play baseball. I want to play football. I want to, and to be honest with you, everything else was secondary. Here's what I told BeBe before you came around, and I love you, but before you came, when I couldn't do anything right, sports were here. 12 years before I do you. I'm here to tell you, I'm not quitting softball. I'm not quitting basketball. I'm not quitting football. That I played touch football into my 5th. I said, I'm not quitting it. And she said, okay. She never tried to change me. She was very patient. She just handled it. Softball, if you play a lot of 16-inch, anybody will tell you, the wives, they're softball widows. That's what they're called. You don't see your husbands 3-4 nights out of the week. Sports was my love. That's the only thing I ever could do as a kid that was worth a damn. I wanted to win, and that's the only thing I could do. I wasn't good in school. I wasn't a good worker. I was one of the worst paper boys of all time. But I was happier being a paper boy than working in that filtration plant. I was out of place. I didn't know shit about this, but they gave me this job. I'm saying to myself, not me, because I don't like it. And I am wasting my youth. Just a dead-end job as far as I was concerned, and I could do better. So I go to Ed Smith. I go, Ed, I appreciate everything you did for me, but I can't do it. I don't like it. He goes, you know what kind of job this is? I go, yeah. I'll be there for 30 years, and I'll be unhappy. I know the money's big, but I can make money maybe with something else. Well, they gave me the job with the park back. Here's what you get back. You get your 12 grand a year job back. I go, okay. It was all about me. And I ended up winning MVP at Hamlin Park tournaments and winning Clarendon and playing a lot of championship games. In my 20s, I would have never played if I kept that job, because 1 month you worked nights, the next month swings, the next month days. Every month you were working different hours. I'm only going to be young once, and that's it. And I didn't take anything else into consideration. That's how it was. And then the one day I come home from picking paper, and I said, I was in tears, man. Because what happened was, I'm picking paper and I see two girls walking down the street, and it's like Pratt Beach at the time, or Pratt Park. Got the bag and pick, bing, bing. And I see two girls I knew. What do? I go hide. I don't want them to see me picking paper. They walked by, and I think one of them saw me and pointed, and I just turned away. And right there it hit me. If I'm hiding from people for what I do, then apparently I'm not completely happy with my situation. So I come home almost in tears. I said, you know what? I put myself in a bad way. She goes, what are you talking about? I said, I'm better than this. I know I am. I know I didn't get to school and B, but I know I'm better. She goes, well, why don't we buy a business? Get a hot dog stand, just like that. And I said, well, I don't know anything about it. She goes, well, I worked at a hot dog stand. You worked at Jack in the Box back in the day. You worked retail. I go, but you went to school for like English and nutrition. You're going to buy a hot dog stand? She go, yeah. Why not? Let's see what can happen. And that's how we bought our first hot dog stand at a bankruptcy hearing. And she gave me confidence. I handled the register, and that's where I learned how to correspond with everybody. I mean, I was good to begin with, but I mean, I could keep the gift of gab was always with me. But now people are coming in asking me, what about the Cubs? What about the Sox? I'm getting my training for what eventually is going to happen by talking to almost every customer that would come in. A lot of guys that worked at the factories, Earl Scheib, Florsheim, which was on Pulaski and Belmont. I mean, a lot of big factories. There was a hospital down the street. So these guys would come in. I'd have some posters up. How about the Bears? They're not going to do much. And then we bought, the next place, and then we sold that after 4 years, and then we found another place. And it started making headlines because we did very well there too. Her influence and her confidence in me was second to none. She knew I could be successful. She's always had that effect. I mean, I wouldn't be here if right now, I would not be here. I thought everything was like from flunking 7th grade to dropping out of high school to almost going to Vietnam, to picking paper, raking dog crap, going nowhere. And then I met her. That was it. I couldn't be more blessed. I'm telling the truth. I won the lottery with her. I was living in the basement apartment. I ended up living in a penthouse, and she gets full credit for that, period. So anyway, I'd always wanted a dog. We're going to get a dog. We're going to get a dog. And one night I'm driving by, late in the evening, after I closed the hot dog stand, we're driving by and we see this Animal Kingdom on California and Milwaukee. We go in and there's this black little Labrador-looking puppy, whippet, take her out, licks my face. I said that was it. So, we weren't sure how it was going to go. BeBe wasn't even sure if she liked to have a dog or not. And, what we were going to do with the hot dog stand. We ended up bringing the dog to the hot dog stand. Well, and they'd be in the back, and all the customers knew, where's licorice? Where's licorice? And as we had these cup boxes, she started out with the small cup boxes, and by the time we were done, she was like in the 32 ounces, the big box, which she ended up ripping out of. But we had, and here's another thing, it filled the void because we didn't have kids. We didn't have kids, and I mean, you don't know how they become family. It's a kid. The dog is your kid. There's a lot of dog parents out there that don't have kids. I never knew how many, but there are, so that's how it was. So we had 3 hot dog stands, plus I had 2 carts. One at Kosciuszko Park and one at Athletic Field, which is the park right on Addison and the Kennedy when you jump on. Right on the corner. The third one was on Milwaukee Avenue 3507. And one day, a guy named Harvey Wells, who was one of the top dogs at XRT, stopped in. And he saw our place, tasted our food, He told 2 more people from WXRT. They told 2 more people. And the next thing you know, most of the WXRT people, from Lynn Bramer to Tommy Marker to Johnny Mars to Terry Hemmer to all the salespeople to Danny Lee, they all came in. And that helped our business quite a bit. And that's how I got introduced to them. And that's how that whole shebang started, by Harvey Wells coming in and telling the rest of them, hey, I don't know who these people are, but they got a great place, great food. And, they brought we brought food for Robert Plant, Jack McDowell, Johnny Hyatt, who's a big star, came in. A lot of people came in that were acts, that were there visiting XRT. So I thought that was cool too. What happens is Athlete's Feet, which was a WXRT feature, hosted by Bob Verdi. Well, by that time, I had a relationship with Norm Weiner, all the top people over there at XRT. And I read in Robert Feeder's column that Tom Pachork is going to be sitting in for Bob Verdi for Athlete's Feet, which was played twice a day, but hosted live in the morning on the morning show. It was a 5-minute thing. And Bob Verdi did it, who we eventually became good friends with. Bob's a good guy. And he understood the score more than most writers did. Norm, Lynn Bramer, all came in one day. I go, hey, I saw where Tom Pachork's sitting in. They go, yeah, he's sitting in for Bob Verdi, yeah. I go, why don't you let me sit in? They go, how the hell are we supposed to let you sit in? I go, because I could do that. They go, Mike, nobody knows who the hell you are. I go, well, how do people get to know me? I didn't finish school. I don't know. I'm not going to broadcast school. I can't go. How do I get? The only thing we can figure, and this was the advice Lynn and Norm gave me, go broker time. Broker time means if you want an hour on a radio station and you pay $200 an hour and they give you a producer and you do an hour show. I go, where do I broker time? Well, Dan Lee owns a place called WSBC. It's 1240. And he brokers time. I go, how much is it? $200 an hour. I go, $200 an hour? Wow. At that time, 1980, that's a lot of money for 1 hour back then. But then I go, ding, I got it. I'll charge $50 for a 30 and $100 for a minute, and we'll do commercials. I don't know nothing about radio. Well, the station went from, for instance, my stand, once you get to 53 West, you'd lose it. It wasn't a 50,000 watt blowtorch, it was 5,000 watts. Once you got to downtown, you'd lose it. Once you got to Skokie, you'd lose it. So you had a big area, but you'd lose it. I start charging, I asked my people that came in. Guy came in from Amco, guy came in from Midas Muffler, Earl Scheib, different people. Lindholm Roofing, which is still there. I said, you guys want to, I'm going to do a radio show. And I had 13 weeks, $50 a week for 30-second spot, $100 for a minute. That was a lot of money, but you'll be on the radio. You ever been on the radio before? They go, no. I says, on top of that, it's going to be listed in the Sun-Times. I had no idea. I called the Sun-Times. I talked to a guy named Dan Cahill. He goes, yeah, I do the listing. Well, Dan and I are friends now. I go, can you list the NFL handicap show in the Sun-Times every Saturday? He goes, yes. I go, you're kidding. He goes, no. You have a show? I go, yeah. I'll list it. Perfect. I sold $1,000 a week. Not $1,000, $1,000 a month, of which I paid $200. So I made money on it. Plus I had it listed. Okay? And I did a thing called the NFL Handicap Show in 1989 with Parkridge Kenny, Phil Dunn, Danny Penny. 2 of them are gone now, God bless. Parkridge Kenny's still with us. And I was the first guy to do an NFL handicap show of any kind in America, I think. Because I thought gambling was around the corner. I didn't know it would start in 2020. That's how I got my tape in case I wanted to use it for something down the future. And I was there for 2-3 years. And then I get a call from WLS one night. Very not known story. Mike Murphy had heard me.
Murph with you, remember.
And Mike Murphy is largely responsible for me getting to the next level. Murph and I are friends to this day. I haven't talked to him for a while, but me and Murph always got along. I always back Murph no matter what. And he was taking off one night, and he asked me if I'd like to sit in. I couldn't believe it. I go, where'd you hear me? And Murph was a big fan of small-time radio. He listened and he heard about, and I did it. And I just did okay. It was St. Patrick's Day, that's right. Nobody was calling in. So I did 2 hours, basically without calls. Just talking out of my ass. Anything that came to mind. Didn't know how to have a clock. Was told just time for a break and I would break. Okay? Then Murph leaves and they're looking for a talk show host. So I throw my name in the ring at LS. And I didn't get it. I go, son of a bitch! That would have been great for me. That would have been great. And I didn't get it. Which was a break for me because there was more big time stuff to come. But I wasn't happy about not getting the gig. Rob Peter writes in his column that Dan Lee has bought the call letters, WJZZ. I read it in the paper, I'm shaking my head. I'm sitting in the back room, getting ready for the lunch. I'm going, you gotta be kidding me. And BeBe goes, what's the matter? I go, did you see this? Dan Lee and WXRT Diamond Broadcasting has bought the rights to WJZZ. And they're either gonna be a jazz station or cool country, whatever the hell that is. And BeBe goes, okay, well, what about it? They should start a sports station. They got WFAN in New York. It's not really a full sports station. They got news in the morning, but they got a couple shows. They got Denver. They got San Diego, Jim Rome. They got like 12 stations. But Chicago doesn't have a station. How can that be? And why are we buying another music station that's not going to make it? She goes, well, what are you going to do about it? I said, I don't know. I swear to God, the next day Dan Lee comes in. I go, oh my God. BeBe goes, what? I go, Dan Lee's here. Now, I knew Dan, but very, not in a, hey, way like that. So I see him, he's in line. He's like the 8th person. Seth Mason's in front of him, the two of them. The president of Diamond Broadcasting, the vice president of Diamond Broadcasting. We got a line. I go, I'll be right back. And BeBe goes, where are you going? I go down the line here. I go, Danny, Mike Norton. Hey, Mike, how are you? I go, good. Did you buy the call letters WJZZ? He goes, yeah. I go, what are you going to do? He goes, I don't know, we're having a meeting Monday. I go, you got to start a sports station. A what? A sports station. He thought like I was out of my mind. BeBe's going, Mike, come on. We got orders to take on them. I go, what do you guys want? He goes, oh, we'll wait. I go, okay. So I start waiting on the people again, and I'm watching him. It's pouring out. So then he comes up to pay. What are you going to do? He goes, we're going to go eat over here. I couldn't talk to him. It was like 12:15. We were moms. We had the Schurz kids. We had adults with the pets. So I'm watching him as I'm waiting on people, cooking the food and everything. I see him get up. We got a line still. I go around the counter. He and Seth go out. They wave by and they go out. There's one problem. I came out after him. I had the apron on and it's pouring. They got the car parked right in front. I come out, they're getting in the car. Seth Mason lowers the window. I go, don't start a music station. I'm telling you right now, start a sports station. I'm telling you, just do it. All right, they roll the window up and drive off. I'm soaked. So that weekend, I found out Danny Lee, he told me the story of what really happened that weekend. And I was amazed. He went back, ate his food, worked the rest of the day, got up Saturday morning, and they used to call what they had, they still do, I guess, come out with the Sunday papers on Saturday. He bought the Bulldog edition, Murph used to call it, the Bulldog edition, of the Sun-Times Sunday and the Tribune Sunday. And he went to the advertisements for the entertainment section. And he's looking through the advertisements, Shoe Buzz, a couple other places, Poplar Creek, but nothing big, small ad. or concert venues. Jam Productions presents, little stuff. Then he goes to the sports section. He had the wherewithal to check this out. The Sunday paper was this thick. It was like War and Peace. He counted the advertisements in the sports section. He counted 50. Sporting goods, car parts, gas, you name it, cars, all in the sports section. And then he asked his wife, Karen, lovely Karen, love you, Karen. He goes, I talked to this guy, Mike North, today. He told me I should start a sports station. She goes, but you guys are all music guys. He goes, yeah, what do you think? She goes, well, I got to tell you, I went to the dentist today. There was 6 people sitting in the place. 4 were guys, me and another girl. The 4 guys were talking about the Bears. Me and the girl were reading magazines. Boom. He goes, really? She goes, yeah. That Monday morning they meet. All the music guys. Seth Mason, Harvey Wells, Norm Weiner, Michael Jamsky in charge of sales. What's our move? What are we doing? Jazz or country? We're doing sports radio. Are you going to listen to that goofy hot dog guy? We don't know anything about sports. You know what Danny Lee said? We better learn. But here's what I say. I changed a lot of people's lives that day. A lot of people's lives. And so did Danny, and so did Seth. And the thing that makes me feel good is that it started the whole trend everywhere else. The fact that I did the sales job to make this man, I did a sales job for him to change venues in literally less than a half an hour.
Chapter 3 of Rahl Jewelers Presents Raging Mouth, the Mike North Story, is scheduled to drop August 2nd. There, Mike will take you through one of the most sensational odysseys in sports broadcasting history. He'll share how he landed his job at the Score Sports Radio, how he, Dan Jiggets, and his team of producers built one of the most popular local sports radio shows in the country. He'll talk about his encounters, both good and bad, with celebrities, members of the media, and politicians. And he'll talk openly about the demons of his youth and how they accompanied him through stardom at the Score. It'll be a special 2-part chapter with bonus features, and the best way to stay on top of it all is to subscribe to ragingmouth.podbean.com or search for the Raging Mouth playlist on the Barroom Network's YouTube channel.